Hey everybody, welcome to another entry in the Hyrule Compendium, and we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of Ocarina of Time. You want to feel old? Think about that. You know, some people have said that, Ocarina of Time, it doesn't hold up. It doesn't stand the test of time.
I feel a lot of this era of 3D gaming. This is the infancy of 3D gaming, really.
Yeah.
The early N64 and PlayStation 1 titles, where you look at some of them now, and it's like, ugh, this is disgusting. Like the original Resident Evil, like, I can't play that.
Stop it! Don't open that door!
With Ocarina of Time, though, for the last 7 years, it's been ingrained in my head that Ocarina of Time 3D is the Ocarina of Time experience.
Yeah.
They fixed a lot of the textures and the graphics. It looks nice. Maybe not by like 2018 standards, but it doesn't look like it's ancient anymore. That's the graphics I have in my head now. And it's been over 10 years since I've played the N64 version. So those old, like, more blocky textures, and I don't have that vision ingrained in my head anymore. So I think graphically speaking, it does not look like a 90s game anymore.
Even with the original version, like, compared to other games at that time, I think this game and Mario 64 and even Donkey Kong 64 a little bit, like, it's more simple, the style, like very simple polygonal graphics. If I'm comparing this to Resident Evil or Final Fantasy VII, visually, I just couldn't even tell what anything was. It's just it's
a mess.
A mess, yeah. I don't think there's anything in Ocarina of Time that you can't tell what it is. You know, where you're like stuck staring at something and is that a door? Is that an item? You know, like, I will concede that it is very simple, but to me that doesn't translate to like this is horrible to look at.
What is this all about? I can't figure it out at all.
Another thing with that time period, when you're talking about Resident Evil or some other early 3D games, is like controlling a 3D game at that time. They didn't totally hadn't figured that out totally.
I feel that Ocarina was one of the best controlled games at the time, though.
There are other games that are similar to Ocarina of Time from that time that we don't talk about. Yeah, I don't think you had Z targeting, or like the camera was terrible. A ton of platformers where it was garbage. Games like Ocarina of Time and Mario 64 like did all that stuff but well.
I kind of feel that those games that did it poorly were playable at the time, but when you look back at those, it's like, this is uncontrollable. It's just, you can't play it anymore.
Exactly, yeah.
So the games that were below Ocarina of Time have fallen off where they're garbage now. Whereas Ocarina, maybe it's not as good, it's not as polished as more modern games, but it was so good back then that it's not a significant flaw at this time. It's not like playing totally different genre, but GoldenEye. Go back and play GoldenEye, and it feels weird playing with one stick. And,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's like, how did they do this?
I play a bunch of modern games, and even I could go from playing Assassin's Creed to Zelda and to Ocarina of Time, and it just doesn't, like, I don't have that weird moment of like, why doesn't this work right? I don't think since Ocarina of Time Zelda had made huge leaps and bounds in the controls.
Not until maybe Breath of the Wild did they fundamentally change combat a little bit.
Yeah, but when I think of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, I almost feel like it's worse in that they made it easier to control, but it also became significantly simpler, like easy. You have as you talked about, the press A to win button in Wind Waker, and while the hidden skills are fun in Twilight Princess, it's like they just make every encounter you squashing your opponent, like... I've seen people say like the story is actually really simplistic, but we kind of touched upon this in our last video talking about replaying. You know, for us it's like maybe that's not a factor, but maybe that's true. You know, maybe the story in later games is better. But
I suppose if you were giving this game to somebody in 2018 who's never played a Zelda game, like a 6-year-old or something, they might think the story is simplistic compared to more modern games. That might be true. I feel the actual gameplay is more important. The fun of exploring the world and the dungeons. The storyline really could be secondary. It's not even important, I think, for most, in general, for most Zelda games. And I feel Nintendo thinks that too. I think when people think of old games, the two most common things people think of are graphics and controls, and I think neither of those are significant problems of Ocarina of Time. And I think that has allowed me to feel that it, because I think the rest of the game is pretty timeless. I think the storyline, the dungeon crawling, the overworld, like most of that to me is still great even today. Yeah,
this might let us know what y'all think. I think it definitely has a lot to do with like what was your first game, or like, you know, how old were you when you played these, you know?
Right.
Because I definitely can see going back to Ocarina of Time and it just feeling different and not how you want it to makes it feel worse.
Yeah, I'd like to know, for people that grew up, maybe your first game was Twilight Princess or Skyward Sword or somewhere from that period onward. And then you went back and played Ocarina of Time, and which version you played of Ocarina of Time. And,
yeah.
I know it's a lot to ask, but like, you know,
give us the full detail of your
story of your life in regards to Zelda.
I had the same thing going back to the Super Nintendo and NES Zeldas. Like, I was not ready for it when I first did it. And then over time, playing it, it got better with replay. Which video is this again? So yeah, let us know your experience. You, like you said, full life story. Date of birth. No. Give us a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe. Check out all our other stuff. And thanks for watching. Do you remember where you were when Ocarina of Time came out?
I remember getting it. I remember my brother bought it for me for Christmas.
Yeah.
And I remember overhearing him talk to his buddy about what he's getting me for Christmas on the phone.
Oh.
So I knew it was coming, but it was one of those things I was so excited about, and I had to pretend I didn't know when I opened the Christmas present.
So we're coming up on 20 years of Mossie's pretending to be excited.
Yeah.